My name is Becki LaPorte, and I am a Director of Compliance with CSI's Regulatory Compliance Group. And I'm here today to talk to you for a while about COVID-19 and your financial health. I appreciate you taking the time to join me today as I walk through a little bit of the scams that are unfortunately happening during this pandemic. We'll talk a little bit about disaster fraud, some things we've seen in the past, some of the things that we're seeing currently. And then my plan is to give you some takeaways so that you can, number one, take immediate action to protect yourself. You also would know where to report if you find something that is related to any kind of COVID-19 scams. So let me begin just a little background on disaster fraud. It's not new. It's something that's been around a very long time. Unfortunately, scammers are really opportunistic. So they feed on negativity and negative news and things that happen to us that throw us off kilter. So, in the middle of all of this, I'm sure we're all feeling some level of stress, whether that stress is concerned about your financial health, your work. Maybe it's just because you've been inside and quarantining with your family and you're just not accustomed to that. And you've kind of had a loss in some of your routine. Kids are not in school. We're all a little off kilter and we're all at various levels of stress in our life right now. And when we're not at our best, that's when we're most apt to fall victim to frauds. And fraudsters know that. So they take advantage of that. And some of the ways that they've done it in the past, just to give you a little background, if you think of natural disasters that you might have seen, even in recent years, it could be a tornado, a hurricane, might be a fire or an earthquake or something along those lines. Anytime something like that happens, a lot of things are occurring. People have lost maybe everything that they own. It's possible if you're in the US, you're probably familiar with FEMA. It's possible that FEMA has gone into place, or the Red Cross or whomever, to provide assistance to these folks as they try to get their lives back on track. So it's a great way, frankly, for fraudsters to get in and manipulate that situation. So let's talk about FEMA for just a second, or even the Red Cross. You have situations where they might, through phone calls or emails or something along those lines, reach out to individuals and say, hey, I know you've been a victim of this hurricane. We want to give you this money, but in order to get that to you, we need all of this information. So they're asking you for your name, your address, your social security number, and everything else. And guess what? They're not giving you any money at all. What they're doing is they're collecting your personally identifiable information so that they can steal your identity. And then they can use that long term to do other things, open up credit accounts, open up bank accounts, and things of that nature to basically commit fraud using your good name for a very long period of time. We've seen that for years. And unfortunately, that type of thing is happening now with COVID-19. They're just calling it something a little bit different. So instead of saying hurricane, they're saying, we want to be able to make sure we can get you these masks, or we want to make sure that you have a testing kit, or we want to make sure that you're well, so we want to send you gloves and hand sanitizer and things like that. But in order to get that, we need all of this information. They might even require you to make a payment somewhere. The other thing that we're seeing is money mules. So you all might have heard of that, where money mules are essentially people who move money through bank accounts, and not necessarily with the intent of committing a crime, but they're helping people facilitate money laundering. And what happens is, and you all probably have gotten this at one point in time in your life, the email that says, hey, we want to offer you a job and you can work from home. And all we need is a bank account so that we can wire money into your bank account. And you're going to set up payments for us. So we're going to wire money into that bank account. And then we're going to turn around and wire a bunch of money back out of it again. And we're going to pay you for your time. You'll get to keep a piece of that. So you go in, especially if you're not working right now or you're not fully employed at this point in time, it's an opportunity in your mind maybe to go and earn a little extra money to get you through this time. When in reality, what you're doing is you're opening an account, you're facilitating money laundering. That money could be coming from any kind of criminal activity. It could be coming from drug money or human trafficking. It could be coming from theft. They're just hacking into accounts and stealing money from other people. It could be that they've gotten somebody's personal information a different way. They're able to get into their account now, and then they're turning around and wiring that money through an account that's in your name. So things like that, offers for jobs that don't make sense, offers for your personally identifiable information, your name, your address, your social, your date of birth, names of the people living in your home, things of that nature could put you at risk. The other thing that we're seeing too is investment scams. So people are reaching out and saying, oh, hey, I'm the one that invented the cure for COVID-19, and I'm just about to sell it to company X, but I want you to get on the ground floor. So if you will send me, pick a dollar amount, 10,000, 100,000, even 5,000 to get in on the ground floor of this investment, then what's going to happen is I'm going to sell it to company X, and then you're going to triple or quadruple or get 10 times the money back. Here's my account. You can send it over. A lot of times they'll do their research and they'll look at things that are happening in the news, and they'll drop some names that you can maybe verify. So you think it's a great idea to invest in this because you're helping facilitate somebody find a cure for this, and you're also investing, so you're maybe making some money on the back end of that. And unfortunately, 9 times out of 10, that's not a legitimate investment either. In fact, the very first case that we've seen that the Department of Justice brought through, and it was back on March 25th, was a case where an individual out of California, and his name, I got to cheat here a minute, his name was Keith Middlebrook. He actually created, allegedly, a cure. And he had a preventable pill that you could take, or an injectable cure for COVID. And he was selling it openly on social media. He was going on the internet and blasting out what he had done, wanted people to invest. Unfortunately for him, he actually did that to somebody who was working undercover in law enforcement, and he is currently indicted for that particular fraud. He's not the only one doing it. So just be cautious if you're looking at investing during this time. You know, with the market in flux, a lot of people are thinking about how they want to invest for their future, how they want to take advantage of those market changes. So it's an opportunity for scammers to come in and take your money. There's also things that are called advanced fee schemes. We've seen those for many years. You guys have probably seen these before, where you get an email from someone and it starts out a lot of times with, greetings and salutations, dear brethren. People still fall for those, believe it or not. You get this email that says, hey, you have all this money waiting for you. And it could be a variety of things. It could be an inheritance. It could be lottery winnings. It could be a number of things. And it's usually a lot of money, millions of dollars. And all you have to do to claim that money is wire me $10,000 to cover all the legal fees, all the customs, or whatever else I'm trying to get you to believe. And once you wire me that $10,000, then I will get that $10 million to you. There are people that fall for that every day. And that's during times when we're not stressed. So if you see something like that where somebody says, hey, listen, we're going to get you everything that you need for your COVID protection. We're going to make sure that you get this cure, that you get this injection or what have you. All you have to do is send us this on the front end, and then we'll send you the supplies on the back end. And it's basically just theft. And we are seeing that. It's happening throughout the world. There was a multi-million-dollar scam in Singapore recently where somebody was acting as a money mule, laundering money. We've seen in the EU where people were purporting to sell masks and collecting large sums of money from companies that were trying to stock hospitals who needed those masks. And they didn't have the masks at all. They were just stealing money from these individuals. So there's a lot of things that are going on that people who normally wouldn't fall for it are, because they really want to do the right thing. They want to help. They need supplies. Maybe they want to invest. They need a job right now. So they're doing things that maybe they wouldn't normally do. The other thing that we're seeing as well is a lot of ransomware and hacking that's happening online. So a lot of folks have kids that are at home. They're doing homeschooling, or maybe you have a college-age student, or maybe you yourself are taking classes. So you're interacting online a lot. You're doing things in a way that maybe you haven't done it before. And emails are coming through saying, hey, your account with X, University X or School X or what have you, has been frozen. And in order to unfreeze it, we need you to log in here with your credentials. And sometimes what they're just trying to steal, frankly, are your credentials. But other times what they're doing is they're putting a virus on your laptop. They might be putting ransomware on there, which is basically saying, I'm going to freeze everything of yours unless you wire me this money. And there's a lot of things that can happen in that cyberspace. So just like this happens every other day, stop, think for a minute, look at it. Take a look at who it's from. If it's really from your school, then more likely than not, it's probably got the school email address. It's not a Gmail or an AOL or Hotmail or anything like that. It's probably your school address. It's probably a legitimate looking address with your professor's name or your principal's name or something like that. And if you need to, pick up the phone, call whoever your contact is at those places and say, hey, I just got an email about this. Did that really come from you? And then you're confirming yes or no. And if they tell you yes, then you should be fine. If they tell you no, then you know that you've probably avoided that particular scam. The other thing that we're seeing too is asking for donations for bogus charities or for individuals who are ill and need money to help with whatever, daily living expenses, medicine, or even, in worst case, funeral expenses. And it's things that pull at your heartstrings. And you'll see it through social media. You'll see it connected to crowdfunding sites where they're asking you to donate. Any little amount will help in order to help them overcome this illness, to help their family, help their children, whomever. I would say be very cautious with that. If you know the person and it's a connection that you know, or it's a legitimate charity or a family member or a friend, someone like that, then it should be fine. But if you're looking at something that you just happen to stumble across, you're not really sure who this person is, you've never heard of this situation, you don't even know if it's a legitimate situation, I would say pause and do your research before you give money. Because a lot of times what you're doing is you're not giving money to that charity or that family in need, you're giving that money to a bunch of scammers who then might be running it through that bank account that they set up with those money mules. There's a lot of overlap here. So they might be stealing money so that they can run it through and launder it and get it to wherever it is they want to get it. And then you're not going to get that money back. So these are some things that we're seeing. And I can tell you that it morphs every day. I've been watching this. As you see it go through, you'll see, a week from now, it'll be something different. And 2 weeks from now, it might be something else. I would encourage you to stay on top of it, even if it's just, looking at your trusted news sources, having conversations with friends. I'm actually going to give you a website here at the end for you to go in and you can stay on top of some of the things that are going on. So what can you do? And how can you protect yourself? I would say first and foremost, let's stop, think, breathe before we do anything. So if you're getting that email, instead of just clicking on it and not paying attention, and believe me, I've been guilty of that, where I've been multitasking, I'm busy doing something else, and I open up an email that I probably shouldn't have opened, and I almost or have clicked on something that I shouldn't have clicked on. So stop, read it, take a look at it, scrutinize it. I will tell you that I normally do that, but in this time when we're all stressed, you might say the same thing that normally you would too, but you might overlook something. So just pause for a moment. The other thing I would caution you with is be really careful about what personal information you're putting out there for the world to see. The Better Business Bureau just recently released a caution to people about something that's going through social media where people are putting pictures from their high school graduation in support of the class of 2020, who's probably not going to have a graduation or a prom this year. And if they do have it, it'll be later, but they're not going through what most of us have gone through that have graduated high school. So there's a campaign on social media that you'll see where they're encouraging people to post their picture, and it appears very harmless. But it's not necessarily, because now what you're posting is you're posting the picture of yourself, but you're telling them where you went to high school and where you graduated. Well, that's additional pieces of information that you might not normally share. And you can go in and you can take a look at, if you saw me and where I went to high school and what year I graduated, then you can go in and do a little digging for me and find me on the internet and find additional information. And if you think about it, with some of your accounts, your questions, those security questions that they ask you things like, who was your high school mascot? Who was your favorite teacher? And maybe you're putting that on there too. Think of some of the other things that you're putting on social media. These games that we're seeing that are kind of fun. You get to see things about your friends that maybe you didn't know, or things that you had forgotten. But this is ripe with personal information that the average public doesn't have about you, and you're sharing it. Maybe you're sharing all the cars you've ever owned. Well, if you think back to those security questions, sometimes they ask you, what was the make and model of your first car? You know, who was your favorite teacher? Where did you meet your spouse? Things of that nature. And you say, you know, don't worry about it. I've got everything locked down. Only my friends can see it. And I say the same thing. I could say the same thing about my social media. Certain sites, I only have certain people access to things. But, you know, it's the internet, and things get on the internet and they're on there forever. You don't know what's being shared. There's a lot of folks that are tagging things. So if you're tagging things on there, your settings might be really strict, but the person who tagged you or who you tagged has it wide open to the public. We've seen situations where people have gone in and had cloned accounts or things that were masked. There are hackers every day trying to get your information. And playing a lot of those games online, frankly, provides information to people. And, you know, and I will tell you, and nothing disparaging about anybody's family or friends, but everybody that's a fraudster probably has a family and some friends. There are folks that will tell you that they got scammed by their best friend. And I'm not saying you shouldn't trust people. I'm telling you just to be a little cautious about things that you just wouldn't normally share. So think about that before you play those games. I know a lot of us just are trying to get a little stress relief or something fun to do. And it's fun to see those types of things and post those pictures and talk about where you met your spouse, or tell, you know, detailed information about your kids or your own personal experience. But a lot of that is being used to build profiles for you and to steal your identity and to get into your accounts. Whether that's your bank account or your brokerage account or your insurance account, a lot of those accounts have that second layer of authentication. And if they can answer who your high school mascot was, the hacker that's in some other country, because they saw what you placed on social media, now they've gotten through some things that they might not have gotten through before. So just think about that. Those are things that can help you prevent having that happen. Make sure that your passwords are strong. I am certainly not the cybersecurity expert, but it's things that you've heard about of, you know, strong passwords. Make sure you're changing them. If you feel that there has been an issue at some point, you clicked on something by mistake, make sure you go in and you change those passwords. You know, you might have people using your devices a lot more often, your kids, your spouse, whomever. You know, make sure that they're following those same standards as well. So what do you do if you are scammed or you think you might be? There's a great website that the Department of Justice has set up, and I really encourage you to write this down. Go in and take a look at it. There's great resources in there. It's updated all the time. It's www.justice.gov/coronavirus. And if you go in there, you'll see a lot of different things. There are some of the cases that they're bringing. There's guidance that's coming from the federal government about scams. There's a phone number in there where you can contact the National Center for Disaster Fraud. You can contact them directly if you have anybody attempt, or even if you were a victim of a scam, you can report that. There's an email address. It's just a great resource center for you to be able to go in and report things. And you can report other things too, including price gouging. We're seeing that, unfortunately. People have been hoarding things. Not that we all want to talk about toilet paper again, but we're seeing that where people have hoarded things like paper products, toilet paper, paper towels, and then are turning around and trying to resell them for 10 times the cost of what they paid for them, because there's still a demand, but the supply is extremely limited. So if you're seeing something like that, or you're seeing a store who is raising the price on things that are really hard to get, you can report that as well. So I would encourage you to go in there and educate yourself a bit on what's going on and how you can help. And the final thing is, you know, we all need to support each other during this time. We're all in this together. I know we all have heard that. And we want to support each other. I, fortunately, am not in a situation where I'm worried about my employment. I have a number of friends who are, and I want to help them through this time. And, you know, we might know people who are ill that we want to help through this time. We want to help support their family, or we want to help the people in our community who are on the front lines every day, whether it's the first responders, the healthcare workers, even the people that are doing the things that we don't think of a lot of times, like the folks who are working at those grocery stores for us and all those other jobs that are really essential for us. So we want to do something to support them, and I would encourage you to do that. I would recommend being really careful about giving things online unless it's a charity that you're accustomed to dealing with. It's a charity that you know. Maybe it's something in your community that has been set up by either your house of worship or a community center, and it's something that you can confirm that that money is getting filtered to the right place. I would encourage you to go that path, or doing something one-on-one with somebody that you know needs that help. I would recommend that you not just randomly click on things or go onto those websites that you've never heard of, because one, that money might not be going where you want it to go, and it could also be taking away some of your personal information and using it in a negative way. So I hope this has been helpful to you. I just wanted to do a brief overview to get your antenna up a little bit of some things that might be occurring around you, and hopefully not occurring to you. But if they do, then you'll stop, think, and say, you know, maybe I don't want to do that, and maybe I should report this, and you have an avenue to do that. So I really appreciate you taking your time to stick with me through this and to listen to me today. I wish you health and safety, and when we're on the other side of this, we'll see hopefully some really good things that come out of it, with a strengthened community and people helping each other. So again, thank you for your time today. I hope this was valuable for you, and enjoy the rest of your day.